Hey guys, Detail Illusion here, and welcome to the Frozen themed vlog. So this one's coming up a little bit late. I had some technical difficulties, as always. I don't think these things ever happen without technical difficulties. Anyways, so this time around I want to cover a little bit of what I'm using for pattern-wise for my costume and explain the genderbend Frozen design, as well as look at some fabrics or the fabrics that I chose to work with for the costume, because I know fabric choice is kind of a big deal with an Elsa cosplay, and I just kind of want to show off what I chose and the reasons behind that, and you guys, if you're making a costume, can take it or leave it, but I know I've gotten asked a few times in regards to that. So yeah, let's actually start with fabrics, because yeah, we'll start with that because they're right here. So for her cape, that's the one I have the most difficulty with because it's so sheer. I mean, you practically can't see it when it's only like one layer. You can only see it when it's two layers, or you can see the embroidery that's on it. But the issue with anything that sheer is that it's not going to be able to support the weight of being something that draped and dragged on, and one person steps on it and it's going to be bye-bye Elsa costume. So I went with something a little bit more robust. I was very tempted to use a stretch netting / tulle. The only issue with that is anything that has stretch in it, I find spandex is really heavy and it has a lot of weight to it, and it kind of makes the fabric sag, and hers just, she walks and it billows behind her and the bottom is rarely touching the ground. So my advice, once again, take it or leave it, is to avoid anything that stretches. Even if it looks perfect, it just won't move the way you want it to. So this is what I got. See, it's not as sheer as hers, but this is a drapery sheer material. I'll bring it up close to the camera. So there's a little bit of a weave in there and a texture, which I kind of like. I think it's a nice little addition to the costume. And also, you guys can't see it, but it sparkles. Yeah. It looks like there's little snowflakes, like little dots of snow on it, which is a big important thing about her costume as well, is how shiny and fabulous it is. So I have 5 meters of this, and it's 3 meters wide because I'm really tall, and then her cape is ridiculously big. It's it's a full circle of fabric, so you need whatever you're gonna have for the length twice. So I want mine to have a 3 meter train on it, so that's why I have 5 meters here. The math there doesn't quite make sense. Oh yeah, because it's shorter on the sides than it is in the back, so it's going to be 3 meters long in the back and then 2.5 on the sides. So yes, so this is the fabric. It should work quite nicely, and then what I'm going to do is, where did the other stuff go? Well, the other fabric has vanished into a different plane of existence. We're going to skip that for a second and go to the fabric that I'm using for the bodice / I want this fabric to look like Elsa's skirt, because the jacket, I didn't want to have to do the kind of beaded embroidery that she has on her corset through the entire jacket. I thought it'd be too showy for more of a masculine design, so I'm just having that on the lapels. But for the rest of it, I have this, and it is a pity and a shame you guys cannot see how beautiful this fabric is. It is essentially a textured polyester that's iridescent, so there's blue and white threads running through this. So depending on how you look at it, it either looks like really crystal or really blue. It's also textured. I'm sure my webcam can see a little bit of it. There you go. You can see the little bubbles on it. So it kind of looks like snow. And I mean, that's the whole point of her outfit, is she weaves it out of ice crystals in the air and forms it around her. So I felt that something that had a little bit of texture would work better in my taste than something smooth, because weaving snow, I can't imagine, would be a perfect art form. And of course, I'm going to throw some beads running down this in different locations, just because she has, in certain places, it shimmers in this weird way, and I thought that would be a good way to give that illusion. One second, let's see if I can find that other fabric from that other plane of existence. There it is. Sorry about that. I put it away. So here, this is what I'm going to be using for the snowflakes and the kind of, well, they're all snowflakes, but the detailing on top of the sheer cape thingamabobber. It is also very sheer and see-through, so it won't impede that. But what this is just like metallic netting. So it almost turns invisible depending on where the light hits it. And I thought it looked a lot like the ice that's kind of on her jacket. And when you have two of them on top of each other, yeah, there you go. I'm quite content with how it looks. The big thing, though, when you're working with anything shiny is that you want it to have more than one dimension of shine. And by that, I mean, if this is very reflective, but it's not going to be enough because that means light will be having to hit it a certain way in order for it to display well in photos or on stage. So it's nice to have different kinds of shiny things in order to so that your costume looks good in all lightings. That was a big concern when I was making my snow spear and bobber, was that the saran wrap looked good when the lighting hit it a certain way, but it looked like plastic when it hit another, so that's why I put glitter into it. Glitter is the answer for everything. But the way I'm going to kind of face that challenge with this costume is that I'm going to use metallic thread to embroider on the design. And this has kind of a different, it's more sparkly, whereas this is shiny. So the edges will be done in this. So once again, that will make them pop. And because I'm insane and apparently have way too much free time, I'm going to be doing the details on the snowflakes in beads. Yay! So there's two different types of beads here. These are the long ones, which don't shine as much as they're iridescent, but I didn't want to do the whole thing in tiny little beads. But these are going to be kind of splashed around throughout the entire thing. And the nice thing about beads is that they also reflect light in a different kind of way than the fabric will, because they're glass, and glass has a different, well, they're plastic technically, but they're meant to look like glass. So they reflect light in a different way. And hopefully, with these three different kinds of shimmers going on, I am going to look sparkly in all lighting. This is a very, very masculine costume. I hope you all know that. The other fabric that I'm kind of adding into the design is this stuff here, which I saw and I was like, I need to use this somehow because it looks like friggin' blue snow. It is faux velvet, textured velvet for... All of these are like drapery or home decor fabrics, so that section is actually a really good place to look for, especially for cosplays, because the fabric is a little bit more robust too, so I find it lasts longer and isn't flimsy clothing fabric. But yes, this is going to go on to the shoulder piece and on the like snowflakes things I have in my design, which if you haven't seen, you can check out on my Facebook page. Yeah. Speaking of the design, I guess a quick justification of that. When I do a gender bend, I try to do three things with it. Like, I choose one aspect of the garment to keep exactly the same, and that's the cape for me, because I thought that was fairly gender neutral, and plus it was so amazing. And I'm on a train kick. I don't know, all my cosplays have these like long draggy things behind them, and I'm just gonna roll with that for as long as I am. But so I want to keep that the exact same, and then I take one aspect and make it masculinized, and for me that was the dress, which I turned into a suit jacket of the same period, sort of. I'm using a Regency style jacket, even though Frozen seems to be like ambiguously Victorian Regency. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be more Regency. The girls just have weird Victorian style tops. I don't know if it's a Denmark thing or if a Disney just didn't care thing. But the men are wearing Regency apparel, so that's what I'm translating it into. So it's going to be a tail jacket, and it's going to come to here and fit really tightly and kind of make that figure, which will be fun to do. I'll show you the pattern pieces for that in a second. But so that's why I decided was like the male equivalent, and then I'm doing that in the fabric that's similar to her skirt fabric. and then having the kind of shiny thing that's on her bodice on the lapels. So, and I've pushed the collar a bit more outward to kind of have that same kind of innocent. I think the big change that she goes through, and that was another really important aspect, was that the design incorporated the change in the character. And she goes from this really like reclusive, she has these high necklines and it's black and it's suffocating, and she's in this tight bodice with these really evident seam lines on it, and then she kind of changes and it's all open. And that's why I haven't liked a lot of the gender bend designs that I've seen where there is a neckline on there, because I feel neckline speaks too much to strong, powerful characters, which she is, but this isn't about her being authoritative. This is about her being herself and being open. And I feel like the neck, just covering the neck, to me shows a character as being somewhat dishonest with themselves or dishonest with the rest of the world. And while she has a giant ice castle doing that for her at that point. She is exploring who she really is and wants to be alone and able to do that. So it was really important for me to have that kind of open concept and around the neck and show a little bit of skin there to embody that. And then, sorry, I got off topic there. The third kind of aspect of a gender bend is I try to do something that is completely new and different. So I scrap one aspect of it that I decide is just too feminine or just doesn't work with a male counterpart and invent a new aspect to it. So that way I'm not just manatizing something. Manatizing, is that a word? Boyifying? Guyifying? I don't know. So for me, that was the sheer arm pieces. I just find those kind of sheer fabrics don't look good unless they're tight, and with any kind of way of putting that on my body was either going to start getting pornographic or was going to just, it looked too girly for me. So I didn't want to incorporate that aspect of her costume. Instead, I added the snowflake shoulder pieces, which are really hard to see in the drawing, but essentially what they're going to be is on my shoulder I'm going to have snowflakes done kind of like what Hans and her dad have, those like shoulder pieces. They have a name that I really should know by now, but it's gone. But they're going to be snowflakes instead. So the pattern piece is here. So it's going to actually be sewn into the shoulder on the sides, and those parts are going to be cut freely and draped down. I just haven't gone around to cutting this out yet because I have cut out so many snowflakes in the past, 3 days that I'd never want to see a snowflake again, ever. Actually, the first time I cut them out, they kind of looked a little R-rated. The shape was fairly phallic, so I ended up with penis wheels rather than snowflakes. I fixed it, but it was kind of funny because they kept on looking like that, and I was like, I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong here. But you'd think with all the pattern drafting and sewing stuff, I'd be decent at cutting out snowflakes, like the craft style where you fold them up and cut them out, but no, it is not a skill set Detail Illusion possesses. But yeah, so that's kind of where the design is going. Interesting things about the pattern. Let's see. The flare. Flare is always fun to talk about. So the back piece is going to be done in 3 pieces because I wanted it to have a lot of body in the back. I'm kind of scrapping the traditional tailcoat and going for more of a long drape thing, just so it's a bit more whimsical and magician-esque. And one thing that I took a long time to decide was how I wanted there to be body into the back. Because when you just put body in the side, it just stays on the side and sits there and doesn't look that good. But I also didn't want to have to do it like a circle cut and put a seam at the top of the back, or do something where add pleats or anything like that, because I felt that would take away from the smoothness of it, and I want it to seem almost surreal. So by there's going to be in total 5 seam lines along the back, and each of them is going to have a piece like this sticking out from it. And see how it flares out at the bottom. When you have 5 of these beside each other, it's going to make for quite a difference. The fabric is going to go from being this wide to this wide in 5 places. So That's going to give it the body without it being just in one seam. And because it's in so many seams, it's going to have more of a flawless finish and just kind of seem to get larger without it necessarily seeming to be the body of the fabric being in one place or another. The other helpful thing I will be doing is I will be interfacing the hell out of the bottom seam. It's going to be a lined jacket, but along the bottom I'm going to add some extra interfacing or maybe some horsehair braid, and that just adds there to a little bit of loft in the bottom of the fabric, so it's going to stick out and look, it's more of an anime look actually, but that weird, like, I don't know, cape being always full even though there's no wind look. Oh, anime cosplays, how you have trained me for the weirdest things. Yeah, that's about it. That's interesting. I mean, I find it all really interesting, but I don't want to bore you guys. The jacket, I just sliced open. I probably should have waited to do that. But this is going to be the front, for those of you who can visualize it. I just sliced it for the lining because the lining needs to be in two parts because I'm going to be taking this around with me for a few weeks, embroidering it, and therefore did not want it to be that large a piece. But yeah, the lapels are going to sit like this. I didn't want to do a cutout in the lapel because I thought with the beading it would be too much of a detail, and yes, it is fairly low cut, which reminds me I need to start going to the gym again. I have been neglecting that. But once again, you can see like the jacket is only going to come to here, so it's really going to hug where my kind of actual waistline is, and the pants are going to be those super high tall pants because, yeah, that's what they wore in that time. I'm interested to see how I'm going to look in that kind of figure. I'm a very long person, so I don't know if it's going to be flattering, but we'll see. Otherwise, I might be like last minute panicking trying to add pieces or chunks to it somehow to save it, but I think it'll actually turn out well. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this costume. I will try and keep up to date with progress pictures. I know tonight I'm going to try and assemble the body, so there might be photos of that. And yeah, if you have any questions, always hit the comments, and I hope this was somewhat interesting, or at least informative. I'm trying to gear these vlogs less about me rambling about whatnot, and actually about cosplay-related stuff, so let me know if this worked for you. See you guys next week.